Chapter 5, My World at War, Outbreak of World War II. It was it was September 1939, and I was 10 years old. I still remember it clearly. School was let out early. There was excitement and fear in the air, and people gathered on the streets and debated, talked, and wondered what it would bring and how long it would last. Everybody was glued to the radio and gathered newspapers. Hitler's propaganda team did a great job. They made us believe it would be over soon. Little do we know that it would last 5 years with unaccountable losses of lives, total chaos, and destruction of a great country with irreplaceable treasures. I'm writing this from a child's perspective. I thought it was for a good cause and with great enthusiasm. I joined the Hitler Jugend. Nobody was exempt except Jewish race, but of course I did not understand why they could not join. Hitler Jugend is a youth organization that met every week and put emphasis on athletics to make physically fit nation, but also indoctrined particularly the young generation of Hitler's theory that we are the only pure race. At my very impressionable age, I was totally unaware of the consequences. As the war progressed, I realized more and more that the situation was tense. Moody and Papa never discussed politics in front of us. I can only guess what his views were. In fact, Papa made us leave the room when he listened to BBC London. More and more, I realized that Hitler singled out the Jews and also watched the Catholics with suspicion. As for everyone else, my age all over the world, my teenage years were profoundly affected by the war. School played a major part in my life. I went to an all-girls school, Oriel Schule. Prior to that, I attended 4 years of grade school. We attended classes from Monday through Saturday from 8 to 12:30. Everybody went home for lunch on foot or streetcar, and at least twice a week we went back to school in the afternoon for lighter subjects like dancing, Fayette, and music. Greater emphasis was on science, math, and languages, Latin, French, and English. Every Wednesday afternoon was taken up by the Hitler Jugend, which conducted many different programs. Athletics and physical fitness was top priority. Marching was part of it, and I was proud to be the flag carrier at the age of 12. Recycling metal, tinfoil, and paper, we collected all of this by foot, was very important, and many hours were spent at the local hospital darning socks for our soldiers. Another project extremely tedious was picking a particular weed, which had to be dried in our attic for tea. During the war, tea and coffee, of course, could not be imported, so one had to find different ways to substitute. Now remember, this is Lilo's book, very similar to what we learned in Number the Stars. And even it can relate to our days right now. It's not like we can just run out and go get anything we want. As the war progressed, socializing became more and more difficult. Every young boy 16 years of age and up was drafted into the army, and with curfews at night and the city in total blackout every night, nobody ventured too far from home. Dating was almost obsolete. Reading, listening to music or radio, and playing games, Mensch agree dish night, checkers and cards were the entertainment. Most times the air raids took place during the night. After several years into the World War II, everybody jumped at the first piercing sounds of sirens. We slipped into a sweatsuit right over PJs, grabbed a coat and clutched our gas masks, which were on the nightstand, and ran into the cellar. This exercise happened many times, and towards the end of the year, twice or 3 times a night. I can still hear Mom say, "Ihr waren Kinder," whatever. "You poor children, I feel so sorry for you." Running down the stairs, we bumped into the members of the 2 other families who lived in the same building. One couple carried their newborn in a wash basket. In fact, it was his regular bed, so they did not have to wake him. My sister and I and the other 3 school-aged children were mostly concerned if the alarm was before or after midnight, because it was important to us. Before midnight meant the first class of the next day was canceled, and after midnight it meant the first 2 classes were free. The cellar was a less than desirable place to hang out. It was cold and damp like a root cellar. Mom stored the potatoes, apples, and onions there for the winter, and Dad kept his wine bottles on shelves. Every family had their own little stall where you also kept emergency kits, flashlights, and radios. Dad always carried the blankets because it usually didn't take long before you got chilled to the bone. Very little was said, perhaps a soft, "Here we go again," and you could tell their faces showed fear and anticipation. Mom was very afraid most of the time, so Werner would bring a little humor in a difficult situation by telling a joke or teasing. Unfortunately, he was drafted into the Army before his 17th birthday, and many hours spent in the shelter were anything but amusing. Everybody was listening for the rumbling of airplanes and hoping and praying we would not be the target that night. A sign of relief was heard when the sirens gave us the all-clear signal. I can still feel how cold the bed felt when we crawled back into it after it, but was very grateful that we were spared misfortune or even death. End of chapter 5. I will do chapter 6 next. Hope all is well. Miss you.